This video is going to talk about the total cost of buying shares. There's three different things to consider when you're buying shares. Number one is what we call the consideration. That's the total value of the shares you buy. So if you bought 2 shares and they cost $5 each, the consideration will be $10. Number two is the brokerage. Brokerage is the fee you pay for buying the shares, and you'll pay that to a stockbroker. And the last thing is GST. GST is a tax that is 10%, and you only pay that on the costs of brokerage. So for my example, we had $10 worth of consideration. If brokerage on that $10 was $5, I pay tax only on the $5 brokerage. You do not take into account the consideration when you are calculating the tax. Okay, so we'll go through an example. This is example 2 from page 95, and it asks us to calculate the cost of buying 1,500 Telstra shares at $5.40 each with a brokerage of 2%. So the first thing we do is calculate the consideration. We have 1,500 shares. We multiply by a cost of $5.40 each for a total cost of $8,100. The brokerage, they tell us, is 2%. So to figure out 2% of $8,100, we need to do 8,100 and multiply it by 0.02, because 2% is the same thing as 0.02 as a decimal. And our answer will be $162. So this is where you need to remember that tax, GST, is only paid on the brokerage cost. So we're going to calculate 10% of the brokerage, which is 10% of $162. So we have $162, and we'll multiply it by 0.10 for our 10%, and we'll get $16.20. All right, so fairly straightforward. The key thing is remembering that GST is paid only on brokerage. And to find the total, we add up these three values, and we should get a total of $8,278.20. So even though the shares themselves only cost $8,100, you end up spending about $180 extra on top of that. And that's all there is. You may get asked a question where instead of 2% brokerage, they might say flat rate of $30, in which case this step here can be simplified to $30. So the flat rate question is actually even simpler than when you pay a percentage brokerage.